The Quran asked the Prophet of Islam to put his trust in the Bible. Can you believe this? This is what I am going to talk about and amaze you. There is much propaganda by strict Muslims that the Torah and the Gospel were changed. Is this true? In a previous topic, I touched on how the verses in the Quran say that the Quran was manipulated. Were the Torah and the Gospel also manipulated? Muslims who say that the Torah and the Gospel were altered haven't been able to build a logical case to prove whether this change happened during, before, or after the time of Muhammad. Do you know why they haven't been able to build a logical argument for their claim? Because no matter what they say, it will also be against the words of the Quran. The Torah and the Gospel could not have been altered before the time of Muhammad. Because Surah Yunus in verse 94 says to Muhammad, if you, Muhammad, are in doubt as to the Quran, inquire of Christians and Jews who have read the scriptures before you. Surah Al Imran, verse 3, and Surah Al Ma'idah, verses 46 to 48, also say that the Gospel and the Torah are a light and a guide to people. We see that according to the Quran, Muhammad doubted in the authenticity of his own Quran, but his God asked him to learn the truth from his contemporary Christians and Jews who were following the Gospel and the Torah. This shows that the Torah and the Gospel were not altered before Muhammad. Otherwise, his God would not call them the light of people, and also would not ask Muhammad to learn the truth from Jews and Christians if they followed manipulated scriptures. Neither could the alteration have happened in the time of Muhammad, because Surah Al-Baqarah, verses 91 and 97, and Surah An-Nisa, verse 47 say to Muhammad, the Quran is the confirmation of the scriptures in the hands of Christians and Jews. Then Surah Al-Ma'idah in verse 68 says, O people of the book, you have no ground to stand upon unless you stand fast by the law, the gospel, and all the revelations that has come to you from your Lord. Wow. Not only does the Quran confirm the truthfulness of Muhammad's contemporary Torah and Gospel, but it also instructs Jews and Christians to base their faith on them. The Quran would not confirm them if they were changed by Jews and Christians. Lastly, the alteration of the Torah and the Gospel could not have happened after the death of Muhammad, because, as the Quran confirms, the true Torah and Gospel were everywhere in the whole of Arabian Peninsula and other surrounding areas that were occupied by the Islamic army. Muslim leaders and teachers from the first century of Islam would have kept the true Torah and Gospel, which could have been used as proof of any alteration. But there is no record in the ancient Islamic books and commentaries for this claim. This shows that the alteration claim has no basis. The Quran asked Muhammad to lean on the Torah. I'm amazed that Muslim leaders and clergies are not paying attention to two significant things in the Quran. Surah Yunus in verses 94 and 95 asked Muhammad to lean on the Torah and Gospel. Then Surah Al-Ma'idah in verse 43 says that Jews must follow their own Torah and do not need to follow the Quran or Muhammad's decision. Aren't you amazed that the God of the Quran asked Muhammad to put his trust in the gospel and the Torah, but encourages Jews and Christians that they do not need to follow the Quran? In other words, there is a place for Muhammad and Muslims to doubt or deny the Quran, but not the Torah according to the Quran. If Muhammad, as the supreme leader of Islam, is asked to lean on the Torah and the Gospel, then it becomes clear that Muslims, Muslim leaders, teachers, and clergies also need to lean on Christian and Jewish holy scriptures instead of spreading false accusations about them. These verses of the Quran reflect Muhammad's high value of the Holy Scriptures in the hands of his contemporary Christians and Jews. Not only did he confirm the authority of these holy books, he also encouraged Muslims to profess belief in them. Therefore, the Quran itself takes away every doubt of the Torah and the Gospel. If Christians and Jews corrupted their scriptures and went astray, Muhammad would not want to rely on their scriptures and customs. But we understand from the Islamic books that Muhammad attended the church in Mecca for years and was in contact with priests. His wife Khadija always went to the church in Mecca. This was because of Muhammad's confidence in Christians. If these are the facts of Muhammad's life, and he honored his contemporary Bible so much, where did this story of alteration originate? This idea of accusation was begun after Muhammad fled from Mecca to Medina and took refuge in a Medinan tribe known as Khazraj, who hated Jews and Christians. To survive and be accepted, Muhammad adjusted himself to the ways of that tribe. Hatred creates serious problems in people's relationships. If you start hating a person or a group of people, that hatred leads you to create many false accusations against them, even call them the worst of beasts, and wish death on them. This was what happened with Muhammad in Medina. While he was in Mecca, he treated Jews and Christians as good role models and called their scriptures a light for people. But after fleeing to Medina, he called them the worst of beasts, ignored the significance of their scriptures, and furthermore forced them to leave their religions and become Muslims. What he did to Jews and Christians afterwards was completely the opposite of the instructions the Quran gives in the first era of Muhammad's ministry in Mecca. His logic was that his God had changed his mind about Jews, Christians, and their scriptures in order to please Muhammad. Does the true God speak against his own words and instructions at the cost of the truth? Not at all. This is one of the reasons that caused me to lose confidence in the Quran. As Muhammad's power was increasing in Medina year after year, the Quran was getting far from its original doctrine. It was becoming more confusing to people, even to his own people, as some became angry and left Islam for newfound unfairness and hostility to people. The Muhammad of Medina was not the Muhammad of Mecca anymore. In Mecca, he was a peaceful man, did not push pagans to follow him. Jews and Christians were on the right path for following the Bible. He was even attending a church with his wife Khadija. But in Medina, he became pushy and cherished hatred towards Jews and Christians, using excuses that his God changed his mind to please him. In Medina, he was under pressure to search for any excuse to blame Jews and Christians in order to please his hosting tribe. He even taught his followers that his name was foretold in the Torah and the Gospel, so that his followers could in the future blame the Jews and Christians of forging the Bible if they could not find his name there. Years after Muhammad's death, Muslim teachers discovered that Muhammad's name did not exist in the Bible. Since it was illegal for them to shed any doubt on Muhammad's and the Quran's words, the easy and safe option was for them to blame Christians and Jews of corrupting the Bible and removing the name of Muhammad. Therefore, the news of the removal of the name of Muhammad from the Bible became widespread amongst Muslims. So we can see how Muhammad changed his attitudes toward Jews and Christians after his migration to Medina. This opened the door for his successors to denounce the Bible with a baseless accusation and lead Muslims worldwide to blame Jews and Christians. The fear of speaking the truth had now blocked the way for Muslim leaders and teachers to approach the existing disunity between the Quran and the Bible in a logical and theological way. For Muslim leaders and teachers, the validity of the Bible is surprisingly not based on its message, but rather on whether it contains the name of Muhammad or not. The real difference between these two books is not the existence or absence of a name. It is the salvation which the Bible provides for its followers in the life on earth that the Quran does not. Suppose Muhammad's name was in the Bible. What difference would it make? Nothing. The central message of the Bible is that you need to put your trust in Jesus Christ, who is alive in heaven and able to lead you to heaven. If Muhammad's name was in the Bible, it would still ask you to put your trust in Jesus. Why? Because only Jesus is the way, the truth, the life that lead to heaven. The message of the Bible from Adam to Jesus is summarized in the fact that people's salvation is the most important thing to God. For this reason, God revealed himself personally in Jesus Christ in order to save people from the bondage of sin and Satan. So the major concern of God in the Bible is not the absence or existence of a prophet's name, but the salvation of people, which is more important than anyone's name. The entire Bible of Jesus Christ came into its fullness as a book by 40 prophets over 1,600 years. With more than 300 prophecies, they all look to the day when Jesus Christ would come and save the world. Neither the political instability nor the economic and social fluctuations were able to create any disharmony among the messages of these 40 prophets of the Bible over such a long period of time. These prophecies were all fulfilled with the coming of Jesus Christ. But this harmony is rampant in the Quran, even though it is by one man alone, Muhammad, within the short time of 23 years of his mission. Despite this short time, many verses of the Quran from the last 10 years of Muhammad's life are opposite to the early Mecca verses. Aren't you amazed at the harmony of the messages of the many prophets in the Bible in the 1,600 years time frame? My curiosity led me to read and test the words of the Bible of Jesus Christ personally because of the Muslim leaders' rejection of it. I said to myself, God has given me eyes to see and read, a brain to compare, a heart and conscience to evaluate and decide. This opened the door for me to find that the Bible of Christ puts the hands of man in the hands of God. The Quran never does this. For this reason, I gave my heart to Jesus. You need to do the same and take personal initiative to see whether the Quran or the Bible of Jesus Christ is genuine, and choose the one that gives you the assurance of salvation. Neither the Quran nor Muhammad are able to give you assurance of salvation. Surah Luqman, verse 34, and Surah Al-Ahqaf, verse 9 say that no one knows what will happen to him after death. But the Bible says those who follow Christ are already saved and will directly go to the arm of God after they die. Therefore, put your trust in the Bible of Jesus Christ and be saved.